Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my November 2019 horoscope report for you. This month we have double the sweet aspects compared to the salty ones, and when that happens, it sets a mood for the general transits that's harmonious and happy. And we have Mercury retrograde, and Mercury in retrograde brings things from the past back into the forefront. So when we have the combination of sweetness in the stars and Mercury retrograde, it tends to bring sweet things from the past, happiness from the past, projects from the past, and even work that was done in the past coming to fruition or outcomes coming in a wonderful way. So we have all of that as an increased possibility in store. The mood of the month is very much still dominated by Scorpio because most of the personal planets are putting their energy through that filter, and that means it's a lot of emotional intensity. So it's definitely an emotional month, but it's definitely a good sign that there are more sweet aspects because the chance for breakthroughs are much more likely when that happens. We have Sag energy starting to dribble in, and so Sagittarius tends to show us the light at the end of the tunnel, especially when it's happening amidst this emotional time. So if you've been moving through an emotional tunnel, the Sag light at the end will start to become more apparent, and towards the end of the month that will get stronger and set us up for the Sagittarius party that is going to happen in December. So the mood will definitely start to lighten throughout the month. Something else huge that we have going on is one of my favorite aspects of the whole year, which is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So we're going to talk about what that can bring in general, and we're also going to zero in on your personal chart to see what field of experience that's going to occur, so you know where extra goodies can be from that aspect. I'll also share that date. I'm going to share with you all of the dates that are challenging, all of the dates that are sweet, so that you can mark them in your calendar. Also, we have eclipse rumblings. The eclipses are going to start showing up in big ways. December and January, we have eclipses, but we can often see manifestations, news, trajectory changes from the eclipses at least 4 to 6 weeks before they occur. That's why I always talk about them early, because here in November, we are very likely to see things coming in from that December eclipse. So I'm going to give you more information about that, a lot of information about the eclipse cycle so you can understand it for your patterns and your storylines. And I'll also, again, zero in on where exactly, what field of experience in your chart you will see this eclipse manifest and what kinds of things I've tended to see go along with that. I'm an astrology teacher, so I always use the charts to show you why things may happen instead of just what may happen. So if you want to learn, you're definitely in store for a wonderful learning experience. You can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, to see many more free blogs. I also have tons of other resources on there, including signing up for my free email newsletter, which gets you a general transit write-up of all the dates, all the aspects that are notable, and what you can expect from them 1 month early in your inbox. And if you love how I teach and you want to learn, you can see my astrology apprenticeship program at anniehelpsyou.com, as well as my other offerings. And definitely check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days, a wonderful spiritual companion for anyone who's seeking and who wants to create the life of their dreams. So you can go to radicalprayerbook.com. So let's see what the stars have in store for you. Hello, Sagittarius friends. We have a lot to celebrate this month as personal planets start moving through our sign. I'm a Sagittarius too. We've got some last delicious moments of Jupiter moving through our sign. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so this transit occurs for 1 year every 12 years. So we've got some weeks left of that yumminess. There's definitely some intensity still, as much of the representation in the personal planets, which are the ones closest to us, are still in Scorpio before they make their move into Sagittarius. And as the personal planets move through Scorpio, they crowd the 12th house for Sagittarius, which has to do with facing and overcoming fears, looking at, with raw honesty, the things that are interfering between us and the life we want, and having an action plan which may include getting help for the things that we just can't tackle on our own. Sagittarius are very independent, and at this time of year, the emotional intensity sometimes reminds us that sometimes we're in a little bit over our heads. with some things in our lives, and we may need to reach out for some support or delegate. So I'm going to go into lots more details about the month of November for Sagittarius. Many of the things I talk about will be true for all Sagittarius placements, but there will be places where I will section out depending on where in the Sag spectrum you are. So let's figure that out now. Early Sagittarius is basically our November born, or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle Sag, around December 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And late Sagittarius, which is where I am with you all, December 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. This report is for you whether you have your sun in Sagittarius, your moon in Sagittarius, or your rising in Sagittarius. It's equally as true for each of you. The moon chart, the sun chart, and the rising chart are all windows out of our experience that show pieces of the bigger astrological picture. Okay, the first thing that I want to talk about actually has to do with birthdays, because our early degree friends, and coming soon for middle and then later for late degree people, birthdays are going to be coming into the scene. So I want to briefly talk about this. Okay, so when the sun in the sky gets back to the place that it was in our chart when we were born, this is called a solar return. The sun represents our desire, our creative forces, the things that light us up. So this energy of desire is enhanced, or a portal is opened for desire when the sun in the sky gets back to the point that it was at when you were born. That's where birthday wishes come from. So you get 10 birthday wishes, write them down, say them out loud, and the big key is to feel them as if they've already come true. You can search for a video of mine. If you just look for Making Wishes Come True, Annie, it should come up, and it will give you more details about how to use astrological power periods for your wishing and to make your wishes come true. So happy birthday to my fellow Sag friends, whether it's this month or next month. If you have your moon or rising sign in Sagittarius, there is still the energy of a new clean slate coming for you as well. So when the sun crosses over our sun or our moon or our rising or placement, which is the natal rising, then there's this energy of rebirth and a new cycle beginning. So Sagittarius are entering that time. What happens before, as I referred to earlier, before the planets get into Sagittarius, they move through Scorpio and they crowd this 12th house. So you may notice that fears, and this is for all Sagittarius, I'm using the early chart, but this is for all of you, that these things that have been undealt with, especially in the emotional realm, Sagittarius are more action-oriented. They like to be physically mobile. They like to learn. They like to teach. They like to communicate. I'll definitely talk about feelings. But this is the time of year when a lot of things that we may not have dealt with come into the forefront. Now, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can just be all about accessing our power, finding places where we've disempowered ourselves, and taking those strands back. So we have you here, the Sag, and maybe you've put your happiness or power in some places outside of you. And during this time, when the 12th house is crowded, you're just sort of lassoing them and taking them back. And then it's making your field even brighter. And it's also helping to empower other people if maybe dysfunctional dynamics were part of this. One of the highlights of this time is that Jupiter is going to be moving through the final degrees of Sagittarius. As I mentioned earlier, Jupiter is our ruling planet, so the year that it moves through our sign is a year where it can bring many blessings. Can't avoid the other side of Jupiter, which is the amplifier, the bringer of issues, or the amplifier of issues that are already there. So if you're a Sag that throughout this last year you've had some big issues come up or big problems come up, then Jupiter could have been amplifying the issue to make it right in front of you so that you can actually deal with it, so that you can get the good stuff that comes from actually dealing with it. So definitely some problems can be amplified, but it's purposeful in the way of getting you closer to what you want. So if you are a late degree Sag, so from 23 to 29 degrees, then in November, Jupiter is going to kiss your placement. And again, this could bring big news, big emotions, big manifestations. It can bring great gifts, excitement, and it could bring a little bit of both, some mischief as it shows you some things that need to be worked with. If you've been working with them over this previous year, then the culmination or the outcome could come now. If you've been avoiding them, then this period of time could really put it all out on the table and then help you to get a strategy to move forward. Throughout the month of November, Venus is going to move through the whole sign of Sagittarius. Okay, again, I'm using this early chart, but I'm referring to all Sag placements right now. So every Sag placement is going to have Venus, the planet that rules love, beauty, and money. If you haven't heard my analogy of or explanation of Venus as my Grandma Marge, then I will help you understand the energy of Venus better because it will be very prominent this month. Okay, so whenever I see my Grandma Marge, well, she's passed now, but when I was little and I would see her, she would give me a big kiss on the mouth. She would tell me how beautiful I was and how wonderful, praise. She would slip me some money, and then she'd pop a meatball in my mouth, my Italian Grandma Marge. So she'd feed me. All right, so these are the energies of Venus. Just sustenance, harmony, love, self-esteem boosts, money. So all of those energies are going to be present and bumping over your Sag placements this month. And the more Sagittarius placements you have, the more you're going to get these kisses from Venus. So hopefully that will be really wonderful. Towards the end of the month is when the sun will move into Sagittarius, and the sun enhances or amplifies, brings creativity and warmth to anything it touches. It can also bring light to something or be like a spotlight. So let's say you have a dark corner in a room and you add some track lighting there. You will be able to see any discolorations in paint, any spider webs, but you'll also be able to see the color of the paint better. You'll be able to have that whole area lit up and have it feel different. And that's what the sun does when it moves through a sign. So it's going to go through, and at some point, either at the end of November for you early degree placements, or into the first 3 weeks of December, the sun is going to kiss your Sag placement or placements. And as it does, it will give light to all of those placements, show you some things that may need to be adjusted, and also show you blessings and gifts and a new way of looking at things. Mars is also completing its movement through Libra this month, so it will be going from 18 to 29 degrees. And Libra energy is in nice accord with Sag energy. So, especially anyone that has placements from 18 to 29 degrees, or basically the middle of the middle degree placements, going to the end of the middle degree placements, and all the late degree placements are going to have smooches from Libra and Mars in Libra. And Mars rules action. So you might find impetus to take some important action steps. Now, and this could really be for every Sag placement, but it's going to make a direct contact with the ones in these placements. And for the rest of you, the first half of the sign, this is happening for you too. It's just going to happen in October. Okay, so depending on when you're watching this, you'll either have your bumps for action, or your tools for action, or the things that you need to take action, or you'll have that in November. Do note that since November is covered in Mercury retrograde, that the actions that are small or affordable or easily changed or having to do with inner work are very well supported during the retrograde process. But for some, very big decisions, for final decisions, for, things that have very long-lasting effects that might not be easily changeable, those kind of things, it might be better to wait until like the second week of December to do something with the opportunities that come in, because the stars will be more clear for those bigger things. Now, not to say you can't do plenty of important things, but during this month, but it would be more geared around your inner realm. So doing the emotional work that can help you to change your patterns in relationship, that's going to come up for tons of Sages. Doing metaphysical or spiritual work that can help you advance with your happiness and your peace. Also doing writing work, working on things behind the scenes or making plans or adjustments or edits, things like that. Something else that's notable this month is that it holds one of my favorite days of the year, which is the Jupiter-Venus conjunction. So we talked about what Jupiter, we've talked about what Jupiter does. It expands, it brings benevolence, and it's our ruler. We also have talked about what Venus does. And so on or around the 24th, it could be the days before or after, when Venus and Jupiter get to the same point, it'll be at 28 degrees. There's going to be extra energy involving Venus. If you happen to have your birthday between like December 15th and the rest of the sign, or if you're between like 23 degrees and the rest of the sign, you'll get extra kisses from this conjunction, because it will also occur tying into your placement. And for all Sag placements, this energy is going to be in the first house. Okay, so early, middle, and late degree placements, this extra boost with Venus and Jupiter combining is going to take place in the energy of the first house, which has to do with your physical body. So like intense healing, major permanent healing, or resources for healing your physical body, reaching diet, weight loss or weight gain, or muscle building goals, so your body, your physical body. Having resources to do any of these things can also come up. This can also be recognition or major boosts for self-esteem, because your first house is the foundational house. It's the energy on which everything is set. So the deep self-esteem that, is more set in our childhood, so this can have to do with major childhood healing that actually helps you to step forward in more healthy ways. And this kind of ties in a lot with this energy of Scorpio that we talked about with, you're probably going to have to do some inner work and face some things at this time. It might not be pleasant, but it can be super productive. And by the end of the month, when this happens, any work that you've done can really show up in a huge way. This can also have to do with, boosts to your appearance, or something with your outer image, or more definition of how you want to step out in the world and be known. Now, do note that when it comes to like buying wardrobe things, any body procedures, or major hair things, because the 24th is still really close to Mercury having been retrograde, feel into the big, hard to change changes, at least until the second week of December. But you could have insights or clarity, or just some natural boosts that just come without you having to do anything. The last thing that I want to talk about, and I'm going to have a very extensive series of pieces here, have to do with the eclipse. Okay, so the Capricorn eclipse that will take place on December 25th or 26th, depending on your time zone. We're talking about this now because we often see major eclipse news and occurrences occurring 4 to 6 weeks before the actual eclipse. So that places November as high prime territory timing for major changes, news, information, surprises, endings, openings from that eclipse that takes place in December could actually be occurring at this time. So the flow of the rest of the video will be this way. I'm going to give you a tutorial on understanding the Capricorn Cancer eclipses, and when they started, what dates were the major events, and when it occurred many years ago, to help you understand what was at play during that period of time. Then I'll drop in information about first house eclipses, because all early, middle, and late Sagies will have the potentials of the eclipse to manifest in the first house. So then I will drop in some really great details about what I have seen come from this first house energy, and I have mentioned some of it because the Jupiter-Venus transit's going to be in there as well, but I'll go into more detail about some things that I see as potentials from the eclipses. Then I'll drop in a second house eclipse discussion. because early degree placement, so basically November born Sagies or 0 to 9 degrees, you have a chance for the eclipses to really also or instead hit in the second house. So if you're not an early degree person, when you see the discussion start about the second house eclipse, you can just fast forward. But if you're an early degree person, that will hold different pieces for you. Then the final piece is going to be the general transit video, where I will list all the sweet aspects, and we do have quite a lot. There are at least 12 great aspects. I'll tell you the dates of the sweet ones. I'll tell you the dates of the 6 salty ones, so there's half as many salty ones. I'll talk about the transit of Mercury, the very rare transit of Mercury, and some other pieces that will help you to make the most of November. Okay, so here is my overview for the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycles. It's always helpful when we're having an astrological cycle that is relevant at the current time to think back to when it happened before, and also to just kind of understand when it's going to happen again in the future. So the last time the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle occurred was between 2009 and 2011. And the next time it will happen after now, because we're in it now, is between 2027 and 2029. So what I have here, I'm going to give you a quick overview and timeline of this cycle and show you what we still have left to kind of understand the timeline. The reason why it's important to understand these dates is because there is a storyline that is taking place over the time from the beginning of the eclipse cycle till the end. And the themes were introduced around the time, sometimes a little early, before, so around July of 2018 or a little bit sooner. The themes that came up, that are going to come up and be present this whole time, started to come up. And then at the end of the cycle, many of the things will have resolved or shifted or come to a conclusion, or whatever that turns out to look like. The reason why I spend so much time and energy in the reports where the eclipse energies are more present is because they tend to bring dramatic conclusions, amazing, brilliant new openings, a shuffling around of energy in a very intense, notable way with major trajectory shifts. And because of this, usually at that period of time, things are going on and people are looking around saying, what the heck is going on? People around me are going through these massive changes. I'm going through changes. Or sometimes you're a space holder for someone else going through changes and not the one having them. But it's like there's something that seems like it's, in the air, and it literally is in the sky, and it is literally down into our experience. So there's this massive shuffling around of energy. So that law that says matter is not created nor destroyed, or can't be created nor destroyed, it simply changes form, is very much evident at eclipse time. So things will be taken away from a certain area, so they'll be eclipsed out, and then energy will be added in to a new area where these new openings will come as things are crossed out. So that's the typical, just general storyline. So as we get closer, and I usually use 4 to 6 weeks before and after each actual eclipse date as the hot spot, I call it, for the eclipse news. But anything related to any of the themes that are going on for this eclipse cycle can happen during any of this time. It doesn't have to be only right near the hot spots, but the odds are greatly increased that news, events, changes, breakthroughs, openings, closes will occur as we're closer to these dates, and that's why they're important. Okay, so July 2nd, 2018, then January 5th, 2019, and then the most recent ones before now were July 2nd and July 16th. If you want to go back to understand those eclipses and try to make more sense of things that occurred then, you can find the information about what house, meaning field of experience for your sign, the eclipses hit for, okay? So basically, the Cancer Capricorn polarity brings tendencies for certain changes to all signs, and they would have to do with the energy of Cancer and the energy of Capricorn. So every sign has had an increased chance of a lot of shuffling around, notable changes, drama, conclusions, new beginnings in the house of home and family, and in the energy of work and your place out in the world, and the dynamic and push and pull between those places, and energies of mother and father and parenting and maternal energy and paternal energy and your inner authority, your outer authority. Every sign has been having storylines from this eclipse cycle in those polarities. But when it's eclipse time, I also drill down into the houses that they occur for each sign. And that gets even more specific about how it affects you when you were born, what your rising sign is, what your moon sign is. You can look at these reports to drill it down even further. Okay, so for the July eclipse, if you look at my June report, and this is 2019, you can get more insight into that. And then for the July 16th eclipse, again, these happened already, but sometimes retrospectively going back to have understanding is helpful. You can see my July 2019 report for that. Now, bringing us to the present time, we're in the November report, and I am going to be talking about this December 25th eclipse. Depending on your time zone, that might actually happen on the 26th, but in either case, it's at 4 degrees of Capricorn. So to follow this general drop-in, I'm going to show you where in your personal charts this eclipse is going to hit and what things you can expect with that. Then probably the December report I'll devote to talking about Jupiter moving into Capricorn. There is a chance I might talk about the January of 2020 eclipse in the December report, but I'm not sure yet. So, check out the December, and then definitely know by the January report, I will be telling you where this January 10th eclipse will be hitting for you. And then the last eclipse has happened. So you see I have these kind of grouped this way because this is one set, and then this is the last set here, in June and July of 2020. So those dates will end out this whole cycle, and things that began here will be getting wrapped up, moving along. And so you can kind of understand that where we're at. So the story in many cases is not done yet. Maybe there will be some kind of conclusion or final chapter that occurs, and then maybe, these ones here are the integration time or follow-up things or something like that. But for the most part, we're in a storyline that's still in process. And regardless of the finality or the occurrences that happen at this time, probably we're going to need until the end of this cycle in order for us to see the conclusion of the story that we are almost done with. So now I'm going to show you the charts of your particular sign and show you what houses or fields of experience this December 25th, 26th eclipse is going to occur, and what themes specifically you can expect with that. Okay, so eclipses bring major news, major trajectory shifts, things coming to light that were hidden, things coming to fruition that had been in process. They can bring surprises, or they can bring accomplishments in the direction of things that were planned. When there are eclipses in the first house or in Aries, these are the areas that we tend to see focus and the ways that they can tend to manifest. Okay, so the first house in Aries rules the physical body. So we can see drastic changes in weight, major weight loss, major weight gain. That can include muscle gain, body, physical, structural changes. This can also include things having to do with wellness. So massive physical or physiological healing, an alignment, a breakthrough, something where you've been working on it, or it comes as a symptom with a problem and then it comes to a resolution. There are sometimes health crises that can come from an eclipse. So if something's been undercover, whether you've known about it or not, if it's sort of been rolling around, it could come out in a big way. Or if it's something you've been working with, it can have a next major step. So sometimes a major illness comes at this time. Changes in your image, so your self-esteem, breakthroughs with your self-esteem, healing things that happened in the past that made you feel certain ways about yourself. So anything having to do with your image, your self-image, and this can also have to do with, of course, it's hard to separate psychological pieces that have to do with physical or physiological outcomes. Sometimes a major change to the physical body, like a pregnancy or something, any kind of change to the physical body is common during an eclipse in the first house or Aries. Also, recognition is another topic that I see come up a lot with an eclipse in first house or Aries. So again, like you get thrown out into the limelight, something where all eyes are on you. And this could be for better or worse. This could be scandalous, or something comes out that was maybe not intended to, or a misunderstanding, or something, where your name or your image gets put out in a bigger way. And this can be for better or worse. But I do definitely see a lot of things that people have been working on come to light in this time, where all eyes are on you because you have moved forward with something, because you've owned your awesomeness, because you are ready to be seen or cleared out vows to not be seen. So working on being seen and being recognized. Physical appearance comes up a lot at eclipse time, where radical changes to the appearance can come up. And sometimes an eclipse is a perfect time to make a radical change to wardrobe or to physical appearance. I always say, listen carefully to the horoscope of the time, because if an eclipse occurs during a personal planet retrograde, sometimes it's better to hold off on some of those changes if they're big permanent ones. But I usually speak to this in the more detailed general horoscope. But in general, major changes to appearance and also changes to identification. So how you identify, whether that's from a gender perspective, whether that's from a professional perspective. I see a lot of people owning what they came to do. So like, for instance, in the past, people knew me as a person who had a real estate business. And at another time, people knew me as a person who was a pharmaceutical rep in a corporate job. So I identified with how people would, see me, and that often is based on our vocation. Then as I started to own that I'm an astrologer and a spiritual teacher and all of these things that I do now, I identified with a different aspect of my potential that started to come out more as my main presentation. So I see at eclipse time, many people will start to look at how they're being perceived and see if that's in resonance with their heart, with what they really see themselves as, and making changes along the path to come into more integrity with how they really see themselves and how they're putting themselves out to be seen, which a lot of times is related to vocation, but again, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Some general tips for this time are to stay well rested, pay attention to your physical body, like symptoms, anything like that. Make vision boards about how you'd like to present yourself, including wardrobe or hair or, what you see yourself as, essences of what you want to embody more of, a plan to get to that, vision, having support for any of the problems that could be happening. So sometimes seeking help outside of yourself can be a major part of being able to step into this different first house Aries eclipse chapter. Eclipses often bring radical changes, major news, major trajectory shifts, sudden accomplishments, sudden things getting eclipsed out, other things getting eclipsed in, things coming to fruition. And when there's an eclipse in the second house or Taurus, these are the areas that I see most highlighted with these storylines. One of the big ones is finances. So there are many different facets of finance. Someone could have a big breakthrough in how they're doing their budgeting. So, and sometimes this is forced from the outside. And sometimes it's instigated from the inside, so a sudden realization that something has to be changed. I've also seen eclipse in second house or Taurus bring about major purchases. Now, it's always important to take this information about eclipses and also factor in what else is happening at the time, because if an eclipse is in a personal planet retrograde, recommendations for whether to make major purchases, may be shifted depending on certain time frames. But in general, in an eclipse season, I often see major purchases made, a home, a boat, a luxury item, or a sustainability item, solar, adding solar, something that's a major purchase that will enrich your life in some way, often comes through. I've seen, major jewelry purchases, something that has some significance to the person from a material perspective, often comes through with these eclipses. I've seen new sources of income. This is one of the major things that I see in these eclipse in second house or Taurus cycles, is a new way of making money, a new source of income, a raise, something different or additional about money. Also, sometimes a source of money can be eclipsed out, so depending on the energy, but changes in how you make money, changes in sources of income. Sustainability topics. So this has to do again with the finances, like questions about sustainability, things coming to a head. Maybe they've been unsustainable and they spiral out of control in the eclipse time. Maybe you have a great breakthrough and you pay off debt and get current in the eclipse time. Something having to do with living sustainably from the financial perspective. An increase in savings, like a bunch of money come in or a bunch of money go out, something having to do again with anything in the financial sector. I've seen things having to do with the environment and the earth, so earth projects, getting your hands dirty, building projects, again, sustainability as it relates to the environment, your imprint, questions about your imprint, or, something having to do with changing the environment around you, building or creating. The energy of security comes up quite a bit. So emotional security, financial security. So a lot of times there are major occurrences on the topic of security. So again, that can be like a zap to the security where something shifts and you're feeling less secure, or something happens that solidifies that feeling of security. And all of this can also have to do with, even steps that one takes to be more financially certain in the future. So putting things together that will affect this sector at some point. And also inner work having to do with self-esteem based on making more money. So, again, raises or the awareness of one's own value that can shift what they call in as far as their income. This energy of sustainability can have to do with the financial sector, but is also, very holistic. So the quest to be emotionally sustainable, financially sustainable, where someone can do things on their own. So not just sustainable as it relates to the world, but also sustainable as it relates to the individual's ability to stand on their own feet, so being able to rely on inner resources sometimes, even rather than having to have someone else or outside resources. So like a remembering of inner resources and a development of your own inner resources. I often see these the eclipse cycles that have to do with second house and Taurus have to do with starting a business. And again, you could see the relationship here between sustainability, but I have seen it in a manifestation where somebody starts a business, somebody ends a business, somebody opens a new chapter within a business, somebody closes a chapter within a business, so the closing or opening of chapters or the closing and opening of whole projects can follow the eclipse cycles or eclipse placements in this house. And that does, again, lead back to this energy of sustainability, because when one has their own business, there's a different level of sustainability than, kind of just making everything happen themselves and, developing the way by which their finances will improve, kind of taking financial, the financial picture by the reins and feeling back more in control or more in a directive role in the financial sector. And often that does have to do with having one's own business. Sometimes I've seen this where people start businesses on the side of their regular businesses, and sometimes I've seen this eclipse manifestation be where this is the time when their business takes flight or they kind of jump all in. Okay, so I'm going to give you the visuals on the general transits that will affect all signs for November 2019. And definitely remember that what I'm giving you here is a summary of some of the things to watch out for. If you want a more complete written list of the general transits that are most notable and the energies and potentials that go along with them delivered into your inbox 1 month early, then definitely go to AnnieHelpsYou.com. And at AnnieHelpsYou.com, you can sign up for my free email newsletter. Annie Helps You, that's supposed to say Y-O-U. It's not legible. Then you sign up for my free email newsletter, and I will send you a written report about this general transit energy a month beforehand so that you have it for your planning purposes and you have it, as a visual. Okay, so like I mentioned, the first thing to know about this month is that there are around 12 awesome aspects and around 6 more challenging ones. So whenever we have a month where there's like double the nice ones compared to the challenging ones, then it sets a tone for the month that is super sweet. Now, as I always give this disclaimer, I will give it again. The general transits are just that. They're general. They're happening. This is one layer of absolute truth that is occurring for everyone. But your personal chart, the way the planets are hitting in your actual chart, which we can't see a lot of that. We can see the sun sign, the rising sign in the horoscopes, but there are all these planets here in your chart. And the way that the current planetary arrangements are hitting all of those planets for you could cause you to have a different experience than is the general theme or mood, okay? But now back to, speaking about this general mood, it's super sweet because we have so much more of this sweet aspect energy. The second very important thing to remember, and we'll look at this in the chart, is that Mercury is going retrograde. I talked in detail about Mercury retrograde in October because I always talk about things early because we feel them happening early. So between October 31st or November 1st, depending on your time zone, Mercury is actually going to start its retrograde process. On October 12th, it started its pre-shadow or its pre-transit shadow period. So every day from October 12th through the 31st, we were going deeper into the energies of Mercury retrograde, which is why I talked about them in the October reports. But now, on these days, it's actually occurring. Okay, so this Mercury is going to go back. Now, again, you see this, we're not looking at, we're looking at not the house configurations for this chart because we're not looking at a certain sign. We're just looking at the mathematical relationships between the planets. So this reading is for everybody. So Mercury is going to go back from 27 degrees of Scorpio back to 11 degrees of Scorpio. And so if you have any placements that are between 27 and 11 degrees, that especially in mathematical, connection to Scorpio, then is going to be more intense for you. And I did talk about more of those details in the October reports for all signs, but just to kind of, have a guideline here. Since it stays retrograde until November 20th, the whole mood of the month has to do with things from the past. Now, some new things can pop through, but there's going to be this strong theme of energies from the past. So I'm calling it sweetness from the past because there's so much sweetness and the energy is tilted, backwards. Now, we also talked about the fact that there are eclipse rumblings, and there are because as early as November, you may start to see some eclipse news come in. But you can definitely look to the sign reports, individual sign reports for November to see where they're going to hit for each of your signs, and also have an overview of this eclipse cycle. The days of the sweet aspects. Okay, so we'll put our big smiley face here. Okay, so November 3rd, 8th, 9th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 23rd, 24th, 26th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. Sometimes the energies from the transits that happen on a certain day can be felt before or after that day. So don't hang your hat too closely to the exact day, but just kind of know that there's a lot of sweetness around the days here. The challenging ones are on the 5th, 11th, 14th, 20th, 24th, and 26th. You notice how sometimes the same day will have either an aspect that could go either way or multiple aspects, one that could be sweet and one that could be salty. You see that happening actually on the 24th too, and also on the 11th. The 24th of November is one of my favorite days of the whole year, because it is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. And this is very potentially expansive to love, self-esteem, money, blessings, luck, just amazing things coming out of the blue. In this case, since the energies are in Sagittarius, which is, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so there's some extra energy of Sag in this storyline. There's even potential for more luck, since Sagittarius rules good luck and expansion and things involving education and publishing and traveling and learning and teaching and spiritual evolution. So definitely put a nice big star in the days around here. Now, do remember, of course, like we talked about, there is also a salty aspect on the 24th and 26th. So those things could also be happening, but this is still a pretty powerful aspect to note. Something else really important to note as well is November 11th. November 11th has an aspect that day. The sun in Scorpio is conjunct Mercury. Okay, so then that day, this and this will get together and amplify each other's energy, bringing potential intensity for better or worse. But occurring on that same day is a very rare transit of Mercury. Okay, so this only happens around 13 times in a century. And the next times they'll happen will be 2032 and 2039. For your reference to think back, if there was anything notable that occurred for you, the last time this happened was May 9th, 2016. It also happened November 8th, 2006, May 7th, 2003, November 15th, 1999. So sometimes it's really helpful to be able to go back and see if periods of time had something noteworthy for you, because sometimes that can help you better understand how the energy may manifest. So basically with the transit of Mercury, for a short time with a telescope, you can actually see Mercury, tiny, very tiny, crossing over the path of the sun. So that's a pretty cool astronomical occurrence, but it also turns out to be energetically a very cool astrological occurrence. And so, it just can add to the intensity. Mercury rules news and travel and communication and devices for that. So breakthroughs in communication, really big news, really big physical shifts, things like that could be prominent at this time. Okay, so those are the things most on my mind, just to give you a summary of this month of the general transits. Definitely sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com, because you can see more about what I do in that newsletter is all of these dates that I list. I tell you what the aspect is and what kinds of energies tend to go along with them. So I have these all itemized out. Okay, also if you want more information about the month, I do also do written horoscopes at cozybysweetstarlight.com. And they're often talking about different things than I talk about in the videos. Okay, so Cozy by Sweet, this is all one URL, starlight.com. You can get monthly horoscopes, again, around a month early on there to get more information, and you can go to anniehelpsyou.com in order to get more blogs. And actually on Cozy, there are also lots of other astrology blogs, astrology for wellness blogs, and other positive lifestyle blogs. And at anniehelpsyou.com, I have lots of astrology blogs for the full moon, for the new moon. So I put together lots of things for you to be able to make the most of the energetic potentials. Definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com to check out all of my free blogs. You can also check out my Astrology Basics and Beyond course if you want to learn the basics of astrology. If you want to go into an insane amount of in-depth astrology wonder, then you can check out my astrology apprenticeship program that can teach you how to use astrology for anything from self-development, helping yourself, helping your friends and family, to being a professional astrologer full on. I can help you with that. You can check my course out at anniehelpsyou.com. I also have a coach certification course. I also have a creating successful online business course that teaches you how to create an online presence and funnel that presence into your paid services so that you can roam free as a bird like I am. You can see I'm in a random place recording because I'm traveling and trying to get these recordings done for you. So you can see all of that at anniehelpsyou.com. Definitely check out my husband B.R. Newman's site, iamhelios.com, iamhelios.com. He is going to soon have a tarot companion guide, an astrology companion guide that serve as your helpers in your study process as well, plus other cool offerings that he has there and a lot of free stuff as well. Go to see my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life in the World in 28 Days. It has become a beloved bedside companion and purse and card-toting companion to my fellow spiritual seekers. So I have heard. So you can see that at radicalprayerbook.com. If you love my shirt, this was sent to me by an amazing woman, with an artist with a beautiful story. And she creates these awesome astrology design garments and all kinds of other designs as well. So you can see her story. These are also all hand stitched by adults in Canada. So you can check that out in the notes below this video. So when you click on the ... or more, all of my websites will be there. The link to see more about these designs will be there. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.